This video I'm going to look at what is an interpolant, and more importantly, what do the interpolant functions in Affinity Photo's procedural texture filter do, and how do you use them? There are 4 interpolant functions in Affinity Photo's procedural texture filter, and they're different from the interpolate functions. These really had me scratching my head for a long time trying to figure out what they do. But then I finally broke down and thought I'm just going to try to use them and put in the simplest values I can imagine and see what happens. And that's what I did, and now I know what they do. So I'm going to share the secret with you. To get started, I'm going to start with a new document. I'll make sure it's in XGA mode, but change it to 1024 by 1024 pixels. Make sure that it's in RGB8 mode and create that. Fill it with black. Choose the Move tool and add a live procedural texture filter. I'll start with a single equation and assign it to the red, green, and blue channels. And to get started, I'm going to look at the lerp function, L-E-R-P, and I'm going to put in values of 0 and 1, and I'll add a custom input I for this. lerp stands for linear interpolation, and it's a method of figuring out a value located between 2 other values and making the assumption that those values should be connected with a straight line. There are other types of interpolation where the assumption is they're connected by an S-curve or by a sinusoidal function. The interpolation functions can work with patterns and textures, so really they're just interpolating pixel to pixel on the screen. They also work with vectors, so the interpolation functions are also vector functions, although all 3 values, the 2 interpolating values and the interpolant, have to be the same order of vector. So if you're using a vec2 coordinate system for values 1 and 2, the 3rd value, the interpolant, also has to be of type vec2. Now down here under custom inputs, I'm going to add a 0 to 1 range input, and I'm going to label that I. And this will be, I'm going to label this the interpolant. So that's my interpolant. I have 2 values that I'm interpolating between, 0 and 1, and then the interpolant is this I value. So if I move it all the way over to the right, it's white, and if I move it to the left, it's black. Halfway in between, it's gray. Now I could switch the 0 and 1 around, so let's do that. If I put the 1 over here and the 0 over here, then when I move this one to 0, it becomes white, and when I move it the other way, it turns black. So the interpolant is a control that mixes the other 2 inputs to the interpolate function. Now, I could sort of do this automatically if I use the screen coordinates. So if I just take x divided by w, the width of the document in pixels, it should go between 1 and 0 across the width of the document. And that's what it does. So I go from 1 down to 0. Now I could switch these around, 0, 1, and it goes the other way. What can I do with an interpolant function? So there are 4 interpolant functions: S-curve interpolant, scint, sininterpolant, and sint. They all take 1 input. It became obvious to me that the only thing you could possibly give it as an input would be the interpolant. I mean, they're interpolant functions. They must take the interpolant as an input, because they can't interpolate, so I thought I would try it. So I just try S-curve interpolant, abbreviated SCINT, and apply that to this, and watch the scope here. So keep an eye on the scope. Okay, so this became an S-curve. Okay, so it sort of smooths out the interpolation. Instead of doing a linear interpolation, smooths it out. So let's try the other one, which is SINT, the sininterpolant, and watch that one. And oh, there's just a slight change in the curvature. So this one uses a sine wave to interpolate between the two values. All right, let me know if you have any comments or questions, and thanks for watching.